We won't go there. But how unprecedented is the situation that Boris Johnson finds himself in this evening? You've gone from that huge landslide. He thought he had it in him to remake the electorate and remake the Tory party, and he's as washed up and as forgotten, or soon to be forgotten, as I think yesterday when you were talking with Nigel and everyone, the guy who thought he was going to be the next Churchill wound up being the next Neville Chamberlain.
In some ways, I think the speed of the fall is the speed of the fall. That's, this is the point. That I was looking at my own memories. I was remembering behaving really badly on election night. There was a group of us I'll say it, the Oxford and Cambridge Club, and we behaved a bit like a rugby night out. There was no grouping, but apart from that, the celebration and the fall from that. Because what he seemed to have done was to reproduce the coalition of Disraeli, that ability to hold the North and the South, the unprosperous North, the prosperous South, and to do it on what looked like a Disraelian ticket of confident national sovereignty, of patriotism and whatever. And of course, it's been thrown away. And I think it's been thrown away for two reasons. He didn't believe it. I don't think he believed it. It was simply a tactic. And secondly, the whole thing was taken over. I mean, and we really do need to put this firmly in place. It's taken over by COVID. It's taken over above all by lockdown. Lockdown is destroying governments all over the world. And what I think, again, is very striking is that Boris, of all people, I mean, you were discussing with Conrad, this man who's a kind of libertarian, this man who's a cavalier, this man who doesn't believe in rules. This man who's a cavalier and doesn't believe in rules imposes the most severe, completely against every tradition of Britain, of English law, limits on personal liberty, much more severe than they were in the Second World War. But it's not even that. You then impose debts on us, which are on the same scale as the Second World War. You do something else. You persuade people they don't need to work. This is what furlough did. It gives you the absolute license. And the thing that's most lethal of all, and of course chimes in with your introduction, of course it chimes in with your introduction, is that it reinforces effectively big state leftism. That's what so in other words, the natural result of all of this would be that we will have another socialist government. But if you actually look at what happened at the end of the Second World War, despite the fact Churchill really had won the war, whereas Boris has lost his, nevertheless he was chucked out because people had got used to being managed. They got used to big bureaucracy. They were looking to the state. So in
that sense, doesn't the Second World War prefigure what happened in lockdown? You said, leaders all over the world have been. I notice a pattern, which is that right of centre leaders such as Trump and Scott Morrison down under, they got thrown out. Left of centre leaders like Justin Trudeau and Monsieur Macron got re-elected, which suggests that lockdown works for the left because it's perceived as a left-wing thing.
Well, it is a left-wing thing. I mean, but again, you see, this is the problem with Boris, because he was totally unanchored in any form of ideology. He had no notion of what he... Again, he's an accidental prime minister. We've now had 4 accidental prime ministers, fundamentally. We had Brown, we've had Cameron, May, completely accidental prime minister. So we've really had over a decade of people in office actually not really knowing what to do with it. And at a time when there's a desperate need, again, as you were saying, to tackle things seriously. The state of the NHS, what does Boris do? He encourages us all to beat saucepans for an organisation which is manifestly turning into a kind of, it's the albatross around the neck of Britain. This vastly, the way we're going at the moment, do you know what we'll be spending on the NHS? We'll be spending 40%.
Right.
You're just deranged.
Right.